So, is this the best DC movie ever since The Dark Knight, like many were claiming? Welcome back, DC fans, to my review of The Flash. After 10 years of starts and stops, watching through 9 entire seasons of a different version of the character, and seeing this character's cinematic universe collapse and start to die, we finally have this movie, which oddly seems very fitting for a Flash story. So when his attempt to save his family inadvertently alters the future, Barry Allen becomes trapped in a reality where General Zod has returned and there are no superheroes to turn to. In order to save the world he is in and return to the future he knows, Barry Allen's only hope is to race for his life. And ahead of starting with my proper review, there's an elephant in the room to be addressed. I've spoken for years at this point about the actions and behavior of Ezra Miller behind the cameras, outside of this movie, in real life. And I condemn everything this person has done. But this movie in and of itself has so many people working on it that are not to be blamed for these actions. I think this movie as a whole deserves its time in the sun because overall, and I was not very excited for it, it's really good. It manages to have an effective emotional core while telling this grand, epic sci-fi tale that is so quintessentially the Barry Allen story, with so many surprises. Some of them have been spoiled in the midst from beginning to end. The Flashpoint storyline is my favorite Flash story ever written, and it inherently gives way for a rush of an adventure through possibilities and immense sci-fi spectacle while still having compelling undertones. The setup, story, and stakes manage to balance a personal and epic feel without compromising either one, which, if you know me, you know that's my favorite kind of story. And while there is fan service, which I'll never complain about as long as it's executed right, I'm a fan. Please service me. Millions of Easter eggs from obvious to deep cuts and an overall celebratory embrace of the history of DC canon, which is so refreshing to see because for some reason DC has been ashamed to do that in their movies. The Flash is entirely Barry Allen's story and arc. It's this character that makes sense of the different worlds, the different logic, and helps us see and understand the gravity of the situation and the true emotional scope of the story. And bringing us back to the earlier disclaimer in the video, what can I say? Ezra Miller is fantastic in The Flash. They make the movie, playing a dual sort of role as two Barry Allens with such a tricky characterization because the humor in this film will not be for everyone. It doubles down on a lot of the elements from this version of Barry Allen that a lot of people didn't like. But honestly, the magic trick they found to have this version of Barry Allen be a compelling and emotionally effective anchor in this film is to pit him against a younger Barry Allen, one that is more annoying, one that is quirkier, one that really doubles down on all those grating aspects of the character's personality and really puts things into perspective for our Barry Allen. And so you see this great growth to the character as he becomes more so a grounded person that not only grounds the new Barry Allen he finds, it's Ezra Miller's nuanced performance that genuinely makes all the insanity happening around him feel grounded and the emotional struggles of this character relatable. And while I had my issues with their characterization earlier on, this is a film that the longer it goes, the better, the richer, the more compelling the characterization of Barry Allen feels. So while I have my issues with the writing of Barry Allen in the early stages of the film, I have no qualms with the performances of Barry Allen. Once they turn away from the quirkiness of this character that really makes it struggle, really makes it hard to find him likable and compelling, once the film turns onto its emotional core, it goes hard on you. He's not the only character that is effective. Sasha Kaye is so wonderful as Supergirl. She might even be the show stealer. There is so much rich characterization done with her limited time on screen. It's a real testament to how layered her performance and the writing are in maximizing every single frame of Supergirl in this film with relevancy, weight, and exploring the thematic depth Andy Muschietti brings with this character and contrasts nicely to Barry Allen's universe-altering arc in this film. Some of my favorite moments are between these two characters. Obviously, Michael Keaton's Batman is a treat to see. These were never my Batman movies. I watched the first one a lot when I was a kid, but I never loved them. And yet, I had a smile on my face whenever he was on screen. Andy Muschietti found interesting and very different ways to explore this Batman that are very different than the Batman that came before and since the '89 movie. Michael Keaton has not lost a beat. He is having a blast playing Batman again in such a weird, different context than the last time he played this character, while managing to be badass with fantastic action set pieces, being able to move and add layers to this worn down veteran Bruce Wayne that works as a much needed guiding light for Barry Allen, while Barry sparks something long lost into life in this defeated, lonely Bruce Wayne. And speaking of fantastic action sequences, I love the visual energy and language Andy Muschietti brings to this film. His camera work is spectacular, from a weird early action sequence right to the opening of the film to the way he visualizes the Speed Force. This ethereal, out of this world, incredibly spectacular sci-fi concept. He manages to find a way of making it feel personable and intimate in the way it's brought to life, in the way Barry Allen finds himself at the center of it. And we've seen so much of the battle against Zod, the way they kind of recreated the sense of impact of Man of Steel. There's a brand new viscerality to it in seeing a familiar battle in a familiar scenario, but having a new element brought to it with the Flash and his super speed. And I really like how they managed to bring on the impact of someone who runs that fast in battle. Generally, the film looks great visually. I wasn't a big fan of how it looked in the trailers, and it's certainly not perfect, but when it comes to the film's big set pieces, the moments, the scenes that are going to be remembered and everyone's going to make videos about, I think this film generally looks visually spectacular. And while the movie is adapting Flashpoint, bringing with it all the classic iconography from that story, there is a lot more of another big DC event that I did not expect to see, and it makes me curious if they're gonna use that, if they're teasing something for the brand new DCU going forward, James Gunn. I don't know, but it definitely caught my eye. I'm definitely curious and invested in seeing if they do it. And like I said, The Flash finally does what DC movies have weirdly been afraid of doing for so long, and that is embracing the rich history of DC, be it in TV shows, in comics, really in movies. It's a breathtaking sequence that is a delight to witness and pays homage to the movies, the characters that really made this movie possible on the big screen. This sequence works, and I will not spoil anything about it or anything that might happen afterwards in the final few minutes of the film that did not expect them to go there. And all of these great elements only make me wish this was our second Flash movie, following a more small scale, really intimate story that better establishes and fleshes out who Barry Allen is in the DCU, his trauma, and his history as a hero and as a person. Because the crux of this narrative, for such emotionally compelling stakes, feels all too abrupt and almost weightless, as if Barry just suddenly remembered to take a chance. And in the full scope of this film and its themes, really the entire history of this version of the character so far, it doesn't feel as emotionally desperate as it should for the catalyst to such a story that is so life altering for a character, that is so quintessential to who Barry Allen is and who Barry Allen becomes. It is easily my biggest issue with this film, and how the tone of that first act establishing the story and the undertone of this narrative and what it goes for don't really connect. It manages to offer a great payoff and resolution, but it got off on a shaky ground. Speaking of shaky, whenever the two Ezra Millers are on screen together, one of them always looks off, like a plasticky mannequin that is somehow moving, and moving in a very rubbery way. If it's a wide shot, it's pretty unnoticeable, but if it's a mid or a close-up, you can tell which one of the Barrys Ezra Miller was playing in the chosen take. And seeing an awfully deep faked Barry for so long is not only distracting, but at points it undercuts the power of certain intimate moments. Not only is that rough, the green screen is rough. And I stand by what I said. It's odd given how amazing the big set pieces of the film look and how grand they feel. It's really the more intimate, quiet, personal character moments that get undermined if anything CGI is happening in the background or around the characters. And in a film such as this, it does happen quite a few times, unfortunately. But even with all the visual issues, questionable narrative decisions, and characterization nitpicks I have with The Flash, Andy Muschietti, Ezra Miller, and really everyone involved in this film manages to inject so much heart into this film that captures the essential core of everything Barry Allen and The Flash represent. It's not only a celebration of everything DC was and is and can be, this is a celebration of Barry Allen. So, is this the best DC movie ever since The Dark Knight, like many were claiming? Not for me. I like The Flash. I had a good time with The Flash. I love multiversal, epic yet personal stories. But there are issues with this film. There are narrative troubles with this film. I think it does enough justice to this story of Barry Allen, but I don't think it's the best version that we could have gotten. So as I dive into my final thoughts on The Flash, one of the last, maybe the last movie in the DCU, it's time for you to start the conversation about it in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts, expectations. What are your favorite DC movies? What is your favorite Flash story? And of course, do you still want to see Ezra Miller as this character in the future? Anything and everything down there. And if you want to know more of my thoughts on DC movies, there's an entire playlist right up here. Or if you just want to talk more movies and TV, this is the place to be. Consider clicking that subscribe button and you won't miss any future conversations on your favorite movies and TV. The Flash soulfully captures the quintessential Barry Allen story. Grand spectacle, wonderful zaniness, and an earnest heart, with Miller as the emotional core, Keaton an absolute treat, and Kaye a most compelling presence. A heartfelt coming-of-age epic on healing the scars at the finest. I'm giving The Flash a B. Thank you so much for watching. We waited so long for this film. I hope the wait is worth it to you. Don't forget to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Big shout out to my channel members for always supporting the channel, and I will see you in the future, maybe in the Speed Force. So until the next one, love each other and love the movies.